In today's video, I'd like to talk about one Atari ST feature that was very readily adopted and used by professionals, but when it came to games, was I think pretty much tragically underutilized. There's a number of reasons why, but we're talking today about the lovely MIDI ports right here. Let's get talking about it. All right, as you can see here, we have a little bit of a setup here, taking advantage a little bit of the MIDI output from this Atari ST here. Now, what is MIDI? MIDI is Musical Instrument Digital Interface, is what it stands for. And it's a standard set for communicating between computers and instruments, electronic instruments in particular. And it's simply just a protocol for exchanging of information, sending information back and forth between either from a computer to an instrument, in this case a keyboard, or from the keyboard back to the computer. And so this allowed for a lot of really amazing things in the music industry. And as I mentioned earlier, there are many professionals who use the Atari ST to make music. It's fantastic, and other computers at the time as well. The Atari was just a standout because it had the MIDI ports already installed as it was, in addition to some timing things as well, but we'll forget about that. I'm talking really more about games because, as everyone knows, I think the Atari ST's audio has a little charm to it. Now that said, could it be better? Absolutely. And one of the ways in which this was utilized, the MIDI interface was utilized, was to enhance the audio output from certain games. Now, and what I mentioned earlier is that tragically underused. I say tragically, not necessarily that there weren't many games that used it. There were a number of games, but it could have been used so much more. Now, there are a couple of reasons why, because not everyone could afford to buy a synthesizer or a Roland device to take advantage of interpreting the signals going out on the MIDI port to create music from it, right? So that's one of the major downsides to the adoption of it. However, those games, and even some software that used it in other ways, used it creatively in order to make awesome music. Let's go to my favorite test game, Ultima IV. Here we have the standard music output from the Atari ST. It's great, fine and dandy. But the cool thing is that there's also concurrently signals going out from the MIDI port that could be interpreted by a device like the synthesizer. So as you can see here, we'll turn this down a little bit and we'll power on the synthesizer. Is it perfect? No, but is it different? Is it more? Yeah, it actually is. And you could even, there are others, I believe, who have done a great job tweaking the output as well to change the instrumentation and such. But as it is, it's great. One of the main advantages of having the MIDI music out is that during the game, when playing the game itself, you either have the music or the sound effects when playing with just the standard output. In this case, if I play the game with the MIDI output, I get the music, and from the regular sound output, I get the sound effects at the same time. This provides a much more enhanced experience for someone like me who loves this game. As you can hear, the instrumentation changes a little bit, the tone changes, the attacks. It's pretty amazing the kind of information that could be sent over MIDI that can be interpreted by a device like this. We'll just turn up both sounds at the same time, and you can hear them both side by side. Other than the fact that the pitch is a little off between the two, actually it's really painful to listen to side by side. You can hear the difference in the benefits from using the MIDI output. All right, that's just one example Now, something else, here, let's turn this down so I can talk a little easier. Where is that thing? I have something in here I want to talk about. It's somewhere. All right, I'm back. This right here is an MT-32 Pi. So this replicates, emulates, however you want to put it, a Roland MT-32. And this allows for some super cool stuff, even beyond what just the synthesizer can do. Let's load up a game that utilizes this instead of this big bulky thing. Be right back. All right, one series of games that utilize the MT-32 extremely well were the Sierra games. This is the King's Quest, Space Quest, Heroes Quest, Police Quest, all of those. They did a fantastic job actually utilizing the MT-32. There are others, but Sierra did a very good job of being consistent and consistently using it and composing the music for it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to boot Space Quest 3, which I think actually sounds super cool in the MT-32 mode on this lovely MT-32 Pi. So what you see here, as you can see on the screen here, I have the music.prg. This allows you to set what drivers or what audio output is going to come out. And in this case, I've already loaded up the MT-32 as the audio output here. Because I'm loading from disk here, it'll take a little bit of time, but it'll be worth it. We'll fast forward through this part. So I am going to put a little side-by-side comparison just after this so you can hear what it sounds like on the native output. You can tell they're the same tune. That's about it. It doesn't sound nearly as full, rich, or like real instruments. I mean, it has its own charm, but it's a night and day difference. We'll just power down now. So that's kind of the difference in what you see, what you hear here. What I'm going to show you is just how I built this guy, this MT-32 Pi. It's a fantastic device, or it's actually this a hat. The hat that goes on to, in this case, I've got a Raspberry Pi 02W that I'm using with it, but I think you can use it with pretty much a Raspberry Pi 2 is probably in the lower end. There's a great GitHub that goes over this. This is a fantastic project on PCBWay. It was actually really easy to put together, other than one snafu that you'll see me talk about in the assembly video recordings that I took. All right, but other than that, it was actually relatively simple to put together. Let's show you how it comes together, and the testing and the learning and the stupidness that I did a couple times, but we fixed it in the end.
Okay, what we have here are the PCBs for the MT-32 pie hat. We got some components here. All right, we have this lovely guy here. Let's start with the capacitor. Got the capacitor here. But let's get these other components in. We have our lovely little diode, 220 ohms. Come on, there we go. 1K ohm. There we go. There we go. There we go. Now, I just need to heat this up. Straighten it up. And perfect. Now we just solder on the rest. Easy peasy. And we'll do the same thing here, just solder on one. Make sure it's all looking pretty like before we move on to the next one. Okay, and I am going to, let's see, all right, let's straighten this up a little bit. Over as I'm bumping my camera. There we go, good. There we go. There we are. And we'll just snip these guys too. All right, the next guy to come up here, this is the OLED display. Just gotta make sure that these are the right ones. Yes. And it goes in a very similar fashion as what we saw here with the audio aspect. All right. There we are. Oh, that actually looks pretty good. Lovely. That solder did not look all that good though, but hey, you know, I probably should have waited to add the solder until I heated up that pad there. A little bit of flux will make it better. And that was an ugly job. Lovely. We're going to take and add the MIDI port. Actually, that looks pretty good. Solder in the rest of the parts, components there, we're good to go. There we are. As I'm bumping this all over the place, let's do that. Rotate that around. There we go. MIDI port on. We are nearly complete. Okay, we have the MT-32 Pi hat. Here is a Raspberry Pi 2W, Raspberry Pi 02W. I have the software onto this flash card here. If you take a close look at this guy, this is the Raspberry Pi Zero that I used in my Pi Storm on my Amiga 1000, where I trimmed off this edge in order to fit it in. But I'm not using the Pi Storm at the moment, so we are going to recycle, upcycle, however you want to put it, this Pi 02 for use with this guy here. I've gotten new buttons. These are the 4-pin buttons. So we have 4 pins on either side, so these are locked into place. I will solder them in place in just a moment. I also, as you can see up here, have a bunch of DigiKey stuff. And really, I have stuff to make a number more of these, to I think make 3 or 4 more. So we'll have a few extra. We have the resistors, capacitors that I already have on this guy here. More resistors. As you're probably the diodes. This here is the optocoupler, not octocoupler. I think he said octocoupler, but this is an optocoupler. And I have a few of them in here. I think you have yeah, it looks like I've got 5. I'll grab one out so that we can solder this guy in place. And then I have the various different headers over here. I wasn't sure if this was the right size, so I only ordered 3 of them. These look perfect. And this will go in through like this. Like so. But we're not going to do that just yet. We're going to do all the top-down stuff.
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
There you go. There is my smart speaker saying a few things. Has little things to say about it. All right, we got the optocoupler. Let's zoom in to this lovely little board. And we have the notch on that side. The dot denotes the top, or pin 1 rather. which aligns with that notch there. So we'll get this guy, ooh, try to get it in place. Yeah, it would have been nice if I had done or installed this optocoupler first. But such is life, c'est la vie, right? My fingers are too big to play around with this at the moment. All right, what we're going to do, zoom out a little bit. I am just simply going to take this guy and put a little pressure to bend the legs a little bit so they better fit and align with the holes on the PCB. And then, once I get some tweezers, I can use those tweezers to put the guy in place properly, as opposed to my big fingers. There we go. And we are in. Boom. And we have it all. So we'll flip this guy over and begin the solder fun. We are done. That is a good looking board. Very clicky buttons. It's great. Now, the thing is this is designed to either use buttons here or buttons here. One of the nice things about this board is it allows for different audio decoders or displays, and it's really nice so that you can't always be certain as to what parts might be available. So the nice thing with this is this allows for a couple different formats, common formats. So I think this is cool. Last part, we get the header in place. These, wow, those pins are long. I'm gonna have to trim those off. But nonetheless, we're good. Just solder in one in place in each corner. Looks good. Solder one on the other side, and then we'll just start to proceed across. There we go. Right. So it turns out with the audio DAC here that there are some jumpers on the backside that need to be soldered together. And I did not do that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to desolder down here. I could desolder up top, but actually there's a lot of other components up here. So I figured it'd be a lot easier to desolder down at the bottom. So we're going to desolder that, remove it, add the right solder, or jumper the couple solder pads that are there, and hopefully get the right sound out. Because what we're getting right now is we're not getting any sound out of this guy. I got on the screen, it clearly shows MIDI input, but there's nothing coming out the DAC. I was able to get actually audio output on the Raspberry Pi audio jack, but it sounded crappy because it wasn't very good. There we go. I'm going to do this off camera so that I don't actually do anything stupid. Okay, we're at the desktop. We have the properly powered on MT-32 Pi. It's all booted up. What I need to do, as you see my messy desk area, we are going to, in order to run Ultima IV, we go to ST low. And then I have too many drives, so I got to move them around so I can get to my D drive. Go to games. Ultima IV. All right. I don't have it plugged in any other sound except for the MIDIs, so I don't get distracted. And that sounds terrible. Wow, that is awful. I think there's some settings I can tweak, but at least I have audio out. MIDI audio out. It's not as good as the synthesizer I have yet, but the objective is to get better. All right, we'll try some different settings and see if that fixes it. Okay, I am in the MT-32 Pi config file. And what you see here, we are using the integrated, or the I2S DAC. We have the sample rate, that should be the correct one. Everything looks good. What I think might be the issue, it might be the gain. I have the gain set at 100. It's 1 is the default, so let's see if that did it. We're gonna change it back to 1. I pushed it to 100 because I wasn't getting any audio out earlier, and so I was like, oh, maybe it's just not outputting enough oomph. So we're now at 1. We'll save that and eject that lovely. Yes, it's called Commodore 64 because I raided that flash drive from somewhere else. And as you can see, I am learning, trying to learn. Okay, we're back. We've loaded up the MT-32 is set up and powered on with a gain of 1 instead of 100. I'm just gonna increase the volume a little bit, see if that, we'll see. 4, boom. There we go. Oh! That did it?
gonna try something else. This is the MT-32 ROM. Let's try the sound canvas. Sound font. Well now, isn't that cool? That actually sounds a lot like my synthesizer. My MIDI synthesizer that I have outputted to before in the past. Let's change it back. I just love this. Now, I could play around with this some more and probably try some different kinds of sound fonts and see if we can't get a different kind of output altogether. I'm just so stoked. So stoked. This sounds like bells, and it's not going through too well. The piano sounds cooler, but that's a very basic sound font. I should probably find something else. So stoked again. All right, it was pretty simple. Some very simple through-hole soldering. And it makes a big difference, especially in these Sierra games. Turn down the volume just a little bit. Like I said, the setup is relatively easy. The cost, if you consider the cost of the Pi 02W, you're probably talking at most $30. So this is not a very expensive upgrade. And I wouldn't hesitate to say or recommend this to anyone who wants to have this beautiful experience, enhancing their Atari ST. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you find this fun, enjoyable, and another way to use your Atari ST and actually take it to the next level. And take advantage of those games and that software that really did use and actually take advantage of this amazing feature that the Atari ST possessed. All right, like and subscribe if you like this. Have a fantastic day. Later.